We are actually in the process of creating a version that will be open source. So in that way, we will be able to give developers a better, tooling that they're more familiar with. We will incorporate the most best of breed metadata editors. We will use GitHub for versioning. All of the things that came up in the last 14 years that wasn't there when we started. So we built a lot of this tooling ourselves, and now we're going to offload that, create an open source license model and an open source community version, and follow that path, because we believe that's the way to work in the future. And that new open source version will be supercharged with new AI features, and we will truly become finally what we've always wanted to be, which is a developer platform. Everybody's trying to get 3-year deals now in software land. You know why? Because they're scared to death.
Hey, let's welcome Grace Schroeder, the CEO at Slinger, to the show. Good to see you and excited to have a conversation with you.
Likewise, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I'll let you share your story. We'll talk about your company and maybe some insights about your product and your story. But let's start with you. You can share it whatever way you prefer. You can go deeper, maybe all the way to the childhood, or whatever you want to make it. So I'll let you take it from here. Today, I want to tell you about a book I'm reading. It's written by 25 veterans of the U.S. Armed Forces, all graduates of the Masters of Business for Veterans program at the University of Southern California. The book is called Veteran Stories of Transition and Transformation. It collects the personal stories of veterans written in their own words. Pick it up for yourself or a veteran you love. Check out the link in the description for 10% off.
Few trips around the sun, so I don't want to start you at my childhood because we may all be asleep by the time I'm finished. I founded Slinger in 2011 really to address what I started to see coming out of the software as a service realm, and even before that in the enterprise software space. That enterprise software wasn't very flexible. It did not address sort of those last mile automation needs. And because of that, the sort of routine path things would take were to implement a large system, a very expensive large system, sort of flash cut everybody over to use the system. And then as the holes were discovered in what the system was designed or able to do, then a spreadsheet department would grow. And based on that last mile of automation need, that spreadsheet department could become 30, 40 people strong, but just because the automation wasn't available in the platforms that companies bought off the shelf. So in my last role, I had a large spreadsheet department as part of my job. And I just kept thinking there has to be a way to create fine-grained automation that's precisely tuned to what specific businesses need. And it was a sort of a decision born in naivete, because if you had it to do over and you just had a couple $1,000,000, you would not start a low-code application company. It's really hard and expensive to build these platforms, and they don't come to market sort of in MVP status, because an MVP won't do enough to support an entire application. So you're always out of the gate, you're going to spend more money. Marketing's a little bit harder, and but we proceeded to do it, and gradually there became a word called low code application platforms. Forrester came to the table, Gartner, and now it's a huge area. And today I'm super excited because AI was not on our horizon when we started the company. But as it turns out, the problems with off-the-shelf software are especially heinous when people try to use them to include new AI-infused workflows. And so there's a perfect storm and a perfect marriage now between LLMs, AI, machine learning, and low-code platforms to either create or integrate, extend, and augment the existing tech stacks.
And you started this company in 2011, if I'm not mistaken, right? And did it evolve? Well, probably it grew over time, but did the core idea or vision evolve over time?
It's interesting because when we started, our fantasy was to create a lights out developer platform that was we designed it for developers versus designing it for citizen developers. So in the category of low code application platforms, you have sort of the bubbles of the world, which create beautiful, departmental apps and others, but hit a wall usually due to some complexity that it doesn't really handle quite well. And then companies like ours, Slinger, we are really aimed at the professional developer. I would not hand this to a citizen developer to have them build an app. So what evolved was from our fantasy, because we are still heavily majority engineering. We don't really want to be a big services company. We don't really want to be a huge marketing and sales, company. We want to be an engineering company. Since we started, every single customer we've talked to wants us to do the work. Nobody had a team of developers sitting around that could adopt a new platform. That was just everybody that a company has today already has a job. So we wound up evolving into the services business and we became the primary users of the platform. That said, given we are sort of not afraid to evolve the platform drastically to keep up with what's actually going on. So we are actually in the process, and all existing and new customers will benefit from this, of creating a version that will be open source. So in that way, we will be able to give developers a better, tooling that they're more familiar with. We will incorporate the most best of breed metadata editors. We will use GitHub for versioning. All of the things that came up in the last 14 years that wasn't there when we started. So we built a lot of this tooling ourselves, and now we're going to offload that, create an open source license model and an open source community version, and follow that path, because we believe that's the way to work in the future. And that new open source version will be supercharged with new AI features, and we will truly become finally what we've always wanted to be, which is a developer platform.
Got it. And to better understand your business and business model, you said that professional developers are your ideal customers. Is that accurate? So are all of your clients developers and development teams, or maybe there are like different segments of your customers that you work with?
Today, we do the work. So our typical engagement model will be uncovering an opportunity to talk with somebody about what automation gaps they're trying to solve for. We put together usually a quick proposal or a quick proposal for a 30-day, paid POC, just for a proof point for people that need that additional comfort before they make a further commitment. And then we take over the development and the work. So we have a solutions team. We have a nice solid process of breaking down the work, pushing the releases, doing a demo every week, showing the clients what we've done, asking them to test. And so this whole cadence is established. And typically our clients continue to develop well after they launch their initial platform. We have never seen, software doesn't sleep, right? It's never finished. It's not like when you put it in a shrink wrap box and bought it at the store, it was finished. It had all the releases you were going to get for 3 years. That's not the case today. So we can literally just work alongside the clients in a very non-frictional way to deliver on what they want. And then the cool thing is as they use the app, that's really where the feedback comes in. And if they launch a service, that's really where the feedback come in, and we can make those tight adjustments quickly to keep the spend aligned with what the customers are getting at it. So if they're achieving cost savings, they can estimate the cost savings, and we will align the feature development to make sure they get the ROI inside of the period of time that they.
And do you use your own platform to build the apps? Is that right?
Yes, we use our own platform, but we also integrate heavily. Our strategy is to look at a business problem and say, what should look at the cost and the complexity and the need for and the customer experience, and say, hey, which of these features should we build on Slinger versus what else in the world shall we bolt on? We would never build an accounting system in Slinger. We wouldn't build, Stripe in Slinger or any of those other things. We would really build the core and be that sort of data home for the data that crosses all the applications that you have integrated.
And making part of it open source, what value does this bring to your business? Because I know that I think Meta did it with their AI models and probably something else. So it seems like companies tend to open source their code. What value do you see in this process?
Well, we talk to, along the way at some point asks the question, what happens if you go out of business? And that's, it's a valid question. This I think will wipe that off the table, number one. So the value that the platform will add, that whether we develop on it or others, it's going to handle all of the plumbing of your application. It's going to handle how do you model a domain? How do you integrate different things? How do you orchestrate data across the collection? Security, which is super important, roles-based access control, and a single sign-on, and just those core things that really nobody sees them, but you need them. And this allows the developer to spend more time getting to that last mile of detail, which is hard. Fine-grained automation is not easy, getting easier. But in this way, they can spend a very little amount of time sort of re-engineering plumbing that every app needs, and most of the time focus on the exact business outcome that the clients are looking for.
And let's talk about your company, and curious to learn how big your company is, and then I'll ask the next question about leadership. But just to understand, what is the size of your company, and did it evolve over the years? Did you have to hire more people, or let someone go? What's the story there?
Yeah, it's we have tried to stay true to our engineering nature, and maybe that's stupid. I personally don't really like marketing. Sometimes I feel like I'm paying you 50 cents of every dollar for the privilege of you selling to me. And I also feel like it's sort of in some sense can pressure people into buying something that isn't quite right for them, because salespeople come to the table with a blob and they say, this is my blob, and this is why my blob is going to work really well in your problem. But it's still just a thing. We come to the table and say, hey, we're going to build what you need. It's a little nerve wracking for people who haven't done this before. The buying pattern for most companies is, I have a business problem. Let me go buy a piece of software to solve it. And it feels like a lot of sort of responsibility and work and guessing to actually sit down with a team and say, well, what is my process? How do and sometimes people don't have great process, and they like software to tell them what their process should be. So our value proposition is going to be driving that thought. We have to sort of shift people's thinking. We're about 100 people now. We started off with a very small platform team here in Argentina. We've since grown to about 100, and only 5 of us are US based. And I have myself, 1 VP of sales, 2 people in marketing, and 1 front end developer, all virtual in the United States. Everybody else is in either sort of Mendoza area or Buenos Aires, Argentina.
Yeah, makes sense. Most of your staff is outsourced, which makes total sense. I think almost all of the service companies in tech follow this model. Did you face challenges as you grew your team, especially remotely? You have a few people in the US, then most of the engineering staff is down in Argentina. How was that? Did you learn something new as you went through this process?
You know what? I when I first started the company, I failed twice with 2 different teams. The reason I'm in Argentina is I found one extraordinary human as my CTO, and we staffed the whole engineering team around him. So that was lucky, honestly. Had I not run across him, I'm a technical, sort of, I have some fluency in technical conversations, but I'm not a developer. So I didn't know if I'm hiring the right team or not. So 2 teams and 2 code bases later, I found Diego. But the most interesting thing right now that we're running into is when you take a software developer, there are different skills. There are seniors, juniors, semi-seniors, and there are skills like, full stack versus front end versus back end. What we've noticed is that traditional developers coming into a solutions environment, it's sometimes not a natural fit. Many developers don't like to interact with the clients, right? They don't want to really try to understand the business domain. They would like the tasks sort of broken down to more distinct levels, and they want to be left alone to do their work. I totally understand that. But this is, I think, for all software developers, going to be their chance to sort of strike out with a new skill set, which is understanding business domains, understanding business problems, having fluency, talking with clients about their business. And you're going to have the ability to context switch across an application that might be a laboratory information management system, all the way down to AI that summarizes reports for expert witness testimony. And so the range of their skills is exploding. The need for the range in their skills to be broader. And some people just don't like it, but some people love it. So it's going to be interesting. I also see some interesting opportunities in the area of AI QA and AI implementations, and that, I think, is a great career path for people that aren't necessarily developers, but everybody's a retail user of AI right now. To start to transition that understanding of using AI as a retail human versus embedding it in a business application.
And let's say one of the listeners is an aspiring entrepreneur. They want to start their own company, and you mentioned a few mistakes that you made in your journey. How would you advise them to start a new company and to succeed with that business?
Well, first, I'm happy to offer, and I do this for my friends and customers alike. I'm happy to offer a conversation with anybody that wants to have that conversation with me, because I'm pretty good at this point of going, you know what, don't spend any money until then, and because I see people, and I did it too, like, I'm going to start this company, start spending the money, didn't know what I was doing, right? So I burned some cash that way. I would say the most important thing, especially if you're a non-technical founder, is to find your team. You don't want to hire one developer, because that person goes away, your whole company, you're toast. And then you also don't have any, if you're non-technical, you don't know how to evaluate the code. You don't know if it's good or bad. So we have a whole team of people that are on top of the skill sets in our solutions teams to make sure that everything goes smoothly. So that would be the number one. You have to pick your partners wisely, and you need to picture that they're going to stay with you forever. Part of the reason we are executing on this open source strategy is so that we can give people a glide path. People that want to run their own teams, we can start the application build and then hand it over, to another third-party team, and have it be easy for a new team, so they don't feel like they're stuck with us or stuck with the platform. We really only want people that can benefit from the advantages of using our platform versus writing things from scratch or choosing another platform. We don't want to lock people in some sort of a cruel renewal cycle that doesn't give them the flexibility to do what they need to do to succeed. I look at software today, and I really start to hate the sales process that they force on you. Like, you have to get on the phone to talk about your renewal. I don't want to get on the phone. Just send me the prices, and then you got to decide 60 days before you're going to renew. I'm like, well, 60 days, really? Why? And by the way, I know if I decide a week before my expiration, I know it's probably going to be okay. I just don't like sort of that pressure. And then everybody's trying to get 3-year deals now in software land. You know why? Because they're scared to death that AI is going to start to death by 1,000 cuts, destroy them. And so they're trying to buy themselves time by locking in these 3-year deals. I wouldn't lock in a 3-year deal with anybody today. I don't know what the world's going to look like in 1 year. And to sort of like hamstring your financial ability to change directions based on the crazy changes that are happening in technology right now, you don't want to hamstring yourself. You have to be able to move. So we like to have relationships that let clients move. Their situations may change. The most important thing is that their business survives and thrives. Yeah, selfishly, it would be great if I could, lock them in. But what good does that do me if I lock them in and then I put them out of business because now they're trapped?
Fair point. Fair point. And talking about AI, how do you see it impacting the industry? Obviously, no one knows what's going to happen in a year or 5 years, but do you have maybe some kind of vision, or maybe you have a few scenarios in your mind, how it's going to play out?
Well, it's unfolding, and there's a lot that is not knowable yet today. So every day we see all these new fantastical claims, like AI can cut your lawn, and then but on the software side, like AI can write your whole software platform. And we try a lot of that tooling just to see where it is. And yes, it is getting better. So, for example, in a Slinger application, if you want a completely custom view, on top of your data model, and it's only on a single data entity in the application, we ask AI to write that UI, and it's HTML and CSS. And then it still takes a human, some time to stitch that up to the API, the internal API, to connect it to the data. That takes a day now. It used to take 5. However, if you were going to say, I want to see a report or a dashboard or a view that crosses from customers to orders to locations, that's still something AI can't really do. Yes, we can get the design done using AI, but where we have a clear path to even using an agent to build that connectivity for the simple one, there's not a clear path to do that using AI for the more complex ones. So I would say, I think what we are finding and what we're focused on is really that stuff that it can help with, right? If you're a professional services practice and you perform expert witness testimony, writing those reports, you make maybe $20,000 to $40,000 a report. Used to take you 6 hours. It's just pure secure document summarization, formatting it to the state where their normal product, right? I do a summary, I have a timeline, and then I do a executive recap, whatever that is, so that we could really automate the things that are clear winners and not really get into the tricky stuff. I don't want to help people diagnose illnesses or anything with AI. I don't want to do anything. And we always feature a human in the loop interface. And that gives people the comfort that the machine is doing what they expect it to do. So you can look at the document that came in, the source documents, look at what the machine, you can edit that data. If the machine pulled the data incorrectly, you can add it to the training and you can add it to the evaluation. So it's a very methodical process. You do the initial ingestion, and then a human literally does the stare and compare and starts to improve it. Then you decide, because you have to sort of retroactively continue to evaluate whether you're helping or hurting with every change you're making. And so that glide path is repeatable and efficient.
Right, thank you for sharing that. And before we end, do you want to share advice or some kind of a final word to the audience, whether it's maybe some younger folks or seasoned professionals? If you have something to share, please go ahead and do it.
I tell you what I really enjoy is the seasoned professionals who are now understanding that the new IP is what's in their head. They have domain expertise that they know they can codify using AI and software. And so because the tooling to create new software is getting so much better every year, it doesn't cost millions of dollars to create a software application anymore. So anybody with sort of a really good business domain expertise and a healthy Rolodex of people that they've socialized an idea with, that are willing to sort of be their design partner, initial clients, anybody with that sort of a profile really can start their own business right now. And it is a way to codify what's in their head into a piece of software, and that they can then, it makes life easier. They're delivering their expertise in a new way. And it requires less of their time and maybe more of their life back, So some of these expert witness reports, they're being reviewed by brain surgeons on the weekend. They would rather be spending the time with their children. And those are the types of efficiencies. Attorneys are the same. Like, many attorneys are nervous about it. They don't want to buy something off the shelf that's going to require their whole practice to to adopt a single platform and start using it for every feature, because who would want to who wants to pick a product at this point, You have no idea what roadmap they're going to wind up on. So we can go in and work with some of those professional services firms and say, look, let's just start knocking down what you know. You know that every time you get a lawsuit, your first move is to file a motion to compel arbitration. That takes 3 hours. Let's just automate that. And starting down that path this is the most important part, different than just picking an application. The whole company needs to come along and understand how to coexist with these types of automations, how to manage, design, refine agents. And that's where I feel like the sort of, I forgot how you graciously said old people. That's where I think the seasoned professionals
Seasoned, yeah.
have a great will have a great advantage.
Well, thank you for the conversation today. Good luck with what you do. Hopefully, you'll be able to utilize this technological boom with AI in your advantage. And I'll leave the link to your company in the description for the video. So if someone is listening, you can check it out. But yeah, thank you again for joining and for the great conversation.
Yeah, we are not a high pressure sales organization. We honestly look for fit when we look at projects. Like where's the client, what we offer, where they are in their thinking, because it's a long term relationship, and you have to choose as an entrepreneur. You have to choose those carefully.
Awesome.